You're listening to Feathers, a podcast of stories about God speaking and his people having just enough faith to believe him and obey. I hope these stories inspire you and encourage you to take flight in your own faith. I'm your host, Amy Bennett, and this is episode 14. Well, hey friends, and welcome back to Feathers. I'm so excited that you're here. Today we have Wendy Hogan, and Wendy actually found us through Karina Allen a couple weeks ago, and she was browsing the site and just really felt compelled to reach out and to ask to share her story, and of course I said yes, and so happy to have you hear her story. I just love how God has worked through her life, and you'll really see how much passion and joy that she has now that she has walked in faith and walked in obedience. And so I'm really excited for you to hear today Wendy Hogan. Wendy, welcome to Feathers today.
Hey, Amy. Thanks so much for having me.
I'm so glad that you're here. How about we start off, you just introduce yourself and your family.
Okay, great. My husband, Michael, and I have been married for almost 18 years, and we have 3 boys, and they are Jack, Andrew, and Will, and we live in Mobile, Alabama. That's where he's from, and we met while I came over here to finish my degree.
Awesome. What's your degree in?
I have a degree in nursing. I'm not using that right now. I do stay home with my boys, and we homeschool them right now.
Oh, so fun. So you get to stay home with 3 boys. So boyhood, momming to boys is all new to me. I don't know that you've seen that we adopted last year. So
Yes. Boy mom is, oh gosh, it's exciting. It's loud. It's stinky, and it's just wonderful, exciting, never a dull moment. I grew up with brothers, so I think God was just preparing me for that. And I was even the only girl in my neighborhood, close enough to, walk or ride over to for the longest time. So yeah, boys are everywhere. I'm surrounded.
Well, I am kind of the opposite. Like I, was one of 2 girls in my family. All of my cousins, until I was much older, were girls. And there just weren't many boys around. And so I feel a little crippled. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's even so much that I'm like, are the boy and girl things kind of, like real, the differences? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Totally different.
Yeah.
They're, what's interesting is I have found that boys and girls, male and female, children, at least my children, tend to like a lot of the same things. Like some things that were like typically girl things my son likes, and vice versa. But seems there's something about boys, it's very intense. Like whatever they like is just they like it more.
Right.
Just for example, here's a small example, is that they both love climbing trees. Like to me, that's sort of always been like a boy thing, right?
Uh-huh.
But they'll both do it, but my son will go like 10 feet higher than my girls.
Oh, yes. Risk-taking.
And yes, the risk-taking is just unreal.
Yeah, get ready.
Yeah, somebody told me, and I find it to be very true, is that girls, if there's any sense that they'll get hurt, they won't do it.
Yeah.
But a boy, as long as they don't die, they're going to go ahead and do it.
Right. I wonder if they even consider that that's even in the realm of probability, that they could experience pain or even be close to death, because it must not even pass through their mind. So just, buckle up and hang on.
I can tell you that we have used more Band-Aids and Neosporin this past, 10 months than we have in all of my girls' 12 years of life. It's really kind of insane. So, yeah, I mean, he will go in the whole, getting holes in their knees of their jeans and holes in socks. I'm like, what are you doing to your clothes?
I know. Just buy those old patches or get the toughest jeans you can, because they're gonna go through the ringer.
Yeah,
it's fun though.
I am learning really fast. So we just finished our first baseball season.
Okay. Well,
your boys play baseball?
Oh, yeah. All 3 do. And Mobile is just, we're in our rainy season, our summer rainy season anyway. So we've kind of had more rainouts than ball games, but it's been fun. We love it. We're the, sit back and relax and watch. We've got 3. Our youngest is coming up through the machine pitch. And so my husband and I were kind of like, we're old pros at this now, and there's parents down the fence from us standing up, cheering, yelling loudly, and we just kind of smile. And, the further away we get from that level field, parents calm down incrementally. So I don't know what level y'all are playing at, but it can be a wild ride, but we love it.
So I am so lost in all of the sports things. I mean, I just can't even tell you how lost I am. All I can tell you is that we don't wear helmets, and there is a coach that throws it overhand to the kids. I don't even know what that's called.
Yeah, coach pitch. That's great. I mean,
okay, yes.
Yeah, they're learning the ropes. That's fine. I hope y'all enjoy it and have fun, and just, one thing I would love to tell all new Little League parents is you need to understand that this is not the tryouts for the big leagues. So just sit back, relax, get an icy or a snowball from the concession stand and have fun. Take a bunch of pictures and just, soak it up.
Well, that's totally me. I love to cheer for him, but I think just because I'm not a sports person, like I'm not competitive in that way, it's just like, yeah, whatever happens, happens. Like it's fine. But I'm really excited when he does really well because he is a great player.
Yeah.
He actually has decided, we did soccer, basketball, and baseball this year to kind of see what he liked because he's never played before.
Okay.
So he decided that soccer was definitely his favorite. So we're looking forward, and he was really fabulous on that team. And so we're looking forward to soccer back in the fall.
There is nothing like seeing them light up when they have found their thing. And I'm telling you, it is such a gift to be, I'm sure I would say the same thing about little girls, but having none, I can just speak to being boy mom. There's nothing like, looking at your kid, your son, when he comes off of his field and he had a great game or had, that 1 or 2 really spectacular, moments in the game, and they look at you and you're like, you did great. That was awesome. And they just beam, it's wonderful.
Yes, and what I have loved is that even during the game, he looks to me a lot.
Yeah.
To say, Mom, are you watching me?
Yeah.
And it's not even his dad or his sisters. It's always me. And so that's new as a boy mom. Like my girls. Well, we've never done sports really with my girls, but just that whole boy thing of just needing affirmation from their mom is new for me, and it's been fun.
And you get the gift of giving it. That is so exciting. I hope you just love every minute of it, hard ones included.
Yes. All right. So let's go ahead and get into your story, Wendy. So your story really is started, I guess, a couple years ago when God really began stirring in you to look for a way that he was already at work for widows, orphans, and the least of these globally. And then how you just obeyed the next step and the next step and how that led you into some cool stuff. So I'm really excited to hear the story and see what you're doing these days.
Yeah, it's really hard to think of yourself as having a cool story, but as plain Jane as I am and, growing up, I just, middle class, average American family, nothing, some wonderful times and highs and lows and everything in between. And then, growing up in a family, where I never remember not knowing who Jesus was and that he loved me, is pretty special. But a lot of times I think I thought, it was pretty boring too. I don't have a super spectacular, testimony. But what I do have is probably more common, I think, to a lot of girls our age in young adulthood or middle adulthood. And that's just, coming up in church, having a relationship with Christ, experiencing those ups and downs, finding, your husband and marrying and starting a family, and then what? We kind of fall into the routine. And God just really began to kind of lift my chin up and say to me, you're bored because, you're seeing such the small picture of what's happening, and you need to look up and look beyond your circumstances, whether they're good or hard or and see where I am already moving around you locally. And, you know what? You've forgotten that I'm not just your God. I'm not just God of America, but I am just Lord of my whole globe and creation. And you can play an active part in what I'm doing. And guess what? It's exciting. So it was kind of a wake-up call the end of 2013, the start of 2014. And I think it started with just realizing that I was in, a dry place. Does that make sense? I don't know if you've ever.
No, it does. And I think I was definitely in that place several years ago. And I think we can get so focused on self and what's going in our world. And God, I love that you said that God is already at work around you. And that is something that Hannah Callio, that was on one of the episodes, she has an ebook out, and I think this is called A Night and Day Difference. I always get the name of that wrong. Okay. But one of the questions she's kind of like a life coach, but one of the questions she has people ask every single day is wake up and say, where are you at work and how can I join you today?
Oh, that is great.
Yeah, so I have been asking that as part of my journaling process for the past several months, and it's amazing how much purpose it can give you, even in the small things. Like even if he says, I'm at work for you to show hospitality to your family on Memorial Day, and so your job today is to cook for them and to clean your house and ready for them so that you can show my love to them through that.
Absolutely.
And so just this. And it's what I would have done anyway, but just knowing that God was in that and that was, his purpose for me that day is just so freeing, and it does give you a purpose and a joy that you don't have before.
Absolutely. I think we miss a lot of those things because we are so just on that hamster wheel of our routine, and we get lost in the day-to-day in and out, and before we know it, we're, kind of down and out thinking, what am I doing? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And I know, I love having something to look forward to. I don't want to get bored, especially in my faith walk. I want to know that I matter, that I'm making a difference, and not that it's so much about me as it is about feeling that we are connected in just a way that God ordained, and it's bigger than us. And so, that's kind of where I was at. And I told my husband, Michael, I felt just disconnected, and my daily prayer time, my daily time of reading God's Word, it just seemed so hollow and just mechanical. And we were, in a stage of our season of transition, a job change, a move for our family. We still hadn't found our own home, and it felt like the gears of our life were just not rolling or clicking, and, we were just stuck. And I felt stuck as a mom. I felt stuck as someone who wanted to, make a difference for the kingdom of God. And so, Amy, it was the driest 2 months of my life as a believer. And I really feel like I could have shortened that had I just said much sooner, Lord, show me, is there any way in me? Is there anything in me that you need to pull out, to purge out, to have me confess? It's hard. Am I the only mom that thinks, I'm taking care of my kids the best I can? I'm homeschooling. I love taking care of my home. I love my friends. I like getting out into, being active with what my church is doing. Where am I sinning? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is confess at the end of the day? But I got to that place. It took about 2 months where I really felt like the Holy Spirit was saying, you are in disobedience, and you need to take time and listen and let me show you where. that is. And that was hard to hear because, like I said, I couldn't think for the life of me, what on earth do I need to confess? Where have I gone so wrong that I would feel so distant? And over just, doing some journaling and some seeking out and just beginning to specifically pray, okay, show me what that is. I want to confess that. I want to be right with you. And he did. And I'll tell you what he showed me. I was a yes, but Christian. I had fallen into a habit of saying yes, but every time I was presented with an opportunity to open up my schedule and connect with someone outside of my routine, to participate in a ministry, or even to go on a mission trip. I always had a reason of, yes, God, I want to do that. I want to play. That excites me. I see that opportunity, but I'm married. I can't go off and leave my home and my husband and my family. How on earth can I do that? And Amy, over and over again, my answer was always, yes, but. So I did nothing. And that's just a terrible, dry place to be.
Because really that yes, but is really a no, right? It's just a nice way to say no.
Absolutely. Kind of a little sideline here. I think it falls into disobedience because years ago, my husband and I came across a book by Ginger Plowman. We heard her speak, and she teaches that God began to teach her to train her children up to understand obedience has 3 parts. We obey God right away, all the way, and she says with a happy heart. And I didn't, a yes but isn't any of those things. Mm-hmm. A yes but isn't, if you're obeying, you're already moving. Don't you just love it when you give an instruction to your child and they say, yes, ma'am, and they are up and going in the direction of obedience. And I think that a yes, but is hesitant, it's doubtful, and it limits our faith because we've already prescribed a certain limitation on what we think God is capable of
that's good.
in our life. I'm ordinary. I'm a mom. That's my main hat that I wear, wife and mom, and I wear those happily. I'm so thankful for that. But my life is, I'm not a big author. I'm not famous. But what I would love for someone to take away from this is that it just does not matter. Your perceived position in your community, in your neighborhood, in your church means nothing. God chose you and He created you. He knew you. He wired you. And He wants you to thrive. And He has a place for you in His kingdom. And when you find what that is, and He is not keeping it secret from us, but our yes buts slow us down and they limit what we allow ourselves to experience. So I had to cast off, like Paul says, cast off these foolish things, and he lists out several things. Well, mine is being a yes but. And so I literally began to practice saying yes. Now I know that, Lisa Turkhurst has the book, Our Best Yes. I'm not saying, go out there and say yes to everything. Absolutely not. But what I am saying is that if you recognize in yourself a hesitancy to even be open to something new that God might be, calling you into, whether it's using the gift of hospitality that He put into you and having people over, regardless of how fresh and decorated and perfect your home is, then you're limiting your impact for His kingdom. And, if you're continually throwing up, a yes, but, and you have a list of reasons why you can't go on that mission trip to Haiti and love on orphans, then, why? Why are you doing that? And I know it's harder sometimes for moms to feel like we can leave our families and that everything will be okay with them and take off around the world and go and be the hands and feet of Jesus to other children without families. But sometimes it's exactly the kind of thing that God surprises us with And he did that for me, actually. I had never really gone much of anywhere. I didn't even have a passport. And once I began to practice my yes to him, he is so good, Amy, and so faithful. He knows our circumstances. He began to tell me, listen, Wendy, I gave you that husband. I gave you those 3 boys. I've called you into homeschooling. Your circumstances do not surprise me. So quit using them as a crutch, as an excuse. You can trust me to give you the opportunity to function how I've made you to function. And, it's like looking at your mom or your dad and they're telling you, jump to me, I'll catch you. That first time when you're in school, they know you. They know what they're there to catch you. All you have to do is take that, trust step, that leap, that jump to them. And almost inevitably, what does every kid do after that? Again, right? So, once I took that first yes and began to practice that obedience, like you said, with that question every day, it was, in my own way, just a daily mindset that I began to lean into the Lord and trust Him with all of my obedience. And through that, He connected me with some girls here who in Mobile, 2 of them, and one from out of state, but that lived in Mobile, and we took off and went to Uganda, of all places. And had I not given God my whole yes, my best yes to Him, I don't think I would have gotten to go on that trip and see firsthand what He had in store for me there.
So was this so you began to trust and say your yeses, and it led to a trip in Uganda. Was that a mission trip? What was kind of the purpose behind that?
Well, it was a mission trip in the sense that a friend of mine is connected to Sunrise Ministries in Jinja, Uganda. And Sunrise has a presence online. I'll give you their website too. But they have a baby home, a children's home, and a Masesi home for street girls. And they operate under one ministry. And she is connected to them in service, but her family also adopted a little girl there. And she had been praying about taking a small group of women to meet and love on and come alongside the work that Sunrise is doing in their community and in the small villages out from their community. And so I had been praying and asking God, to just stir my heart and to help me see opportunities when it was time, and to, be willing to be obedient when those opportunities came. And months in, this is the beginning of 2014, and in the summer, this friend of mine, Dana, approached me. She and I had a conversation after a summer Bible study that both of us were in, and she had said that she was praying and seeking God about timing and planning this trip back over to Jinja, and just kind of floated it out to the group to just be in prayer, and if anyone was interested, to talk to her about it. And so I did, and I told her, kind of where I was coming from. And I said, I've never done anything like this. I don't know how I can do anything like this, because I was imagining the dollar signs it must take, the time away from my family, and the trip would most likely be in the school year, and I school my kids. So, but I told her, I said, I just, I want to say this to you and just let you know, I at least want to know about the work they're doing, and I want to pray about this opportunity. And Amy, it was like learning how to walk all over again, literally one step at a time, obediently just walking through the process and learning how to pray through a decision and a choice about what was to come. One door after another. And people say that, and I've heard people say that, but y'all, it really is how God works. He moves us through bits at a time. And sometimes he only shows us up to a certain point, of where to go and how far we'll get at that stage. And it's literally walking out your faith. And I saw him provide monetarily for me to go on this trip. Timing wise, things really just fell into place through his provision. And I was given the chance to, for 2 weeks of my life, participate in living out the love of Christ with people in another country who I now love, very dearly because of that opportunity that the Lord gave me to do that. And, I think it's in Matthew, it says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for they will see the kingdom of heaven." I never really understood, what all that meant. And I think it literally does mean, to some extent, the poor on this earth, those in poverty, seem to have such a closeness with God and know Him in a more intimate way. But I also think that poor in spirit, when we just really realize the true poverty of humanity in spirit, I think that that's when we get off of the roller coaster and our life in faith and in spirit become more steady forward in progress instead of all these ups and downs. Because if we just really could see how much we truly do need Jesus daily, then that's at least recognizing our own poor spirit. And when He is our sustenance, it's like a whole new level of life with Him. And that's what He brought me into, and just, showed me, in spite of ourselves, in spite of the wretchedness of our sin and what He saved us from, He loved us beyond His own life. And it was just an amazing season of seeing everything that I had been taught and had been poured into me as a child and as a young woman growing up as a Christian. I got to really experience that in the fullness of it, like it was really real for the first time. And, He did that through connecting me and through putting me in a place where I could love the people that He came to earth to love, the widow, the orphan, and to see them and love them and see them with His eyes. There was no greater joy on earth that I've ever had before.
Mm-hmm. It is just so powerful to see God work that way. I love that. Mm-hmm. Totally tracking with all that you're saying. I think it's when we wake up. I sort of picture your story as kind of like when we wake up to what God is doing around us, and then we begin taking those steps. It's like there's a whole world going on around you that you weren't aware of. And that's probably what your soul was aching for before.
Right.
The dryness and it's just really, it's that waking up to see that there is exciting things going on around us. And,
absolutely.
We can play a part in that.
Yeah. A couple of years back, I had kind of, fallen into that, I hate to call it a trap, but we've got to get the Christmas card right. What is it about us? We want to get that Christmas card picture right and get it out in the mail to our family and friends we don't get to see. And I've never done very well at that. They're just, my boys are just hard to wrangle for a photograph, and ours end up, being more comical than anything, which are treasures in themselves. But one year I got they were just sitting on the couch. They were all in their little pajamas, and it was really close to Christmas time, and I said, y'all stay put. I'm going to grab my camera, snap a picture, and call this done. And I did, and they were, in good mood, and it just worked out. And so I sit on the computer, and I'm like, okay, now I need the perfect Bible verse, right? There's just always that next thing. And I'm sitting there thinking about it, and I put it aside, and a lot of times I do my best thinking and dreaming at night, when I get still and finally, I'm getting ready to go to bed or fall asleep. Things just, my imagination stirs, and sometimes even I feel like the Lord just kind of speaks to my heart in those times. And he kept telling me, I have a new thing coming for your family. And I had to get up and look up, where had I heard that? What verse was it? And it's twice in Scripture, Isaiah 43:19, where he says, "See, I'm doing a new thing. It's coming up out of the ground. Don't you perceive it? I'm going to make a way in the desert and streams in the wasteland." And I loved that verse. And so I used that on that Christmas card under my boy's picture. I said, he's doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? And that's kind of what carried us into the year. And later on, I realized that Jesus even quoted that passage, and I think it was somewhere in John where he quotes that passage about himself, which is always so cool to me about Jesus. Every time he would pull up a Old Testament reference and speak it, and obviously he was in that moment fulfilling that prophecy, it really just gave new life and new meaning to that. But Amy, when he is about his business of doing that new thing, and he includes you in it, or he's doing it in our lives, there's just no other place you would rather be on earth. And so, for me, coming out of that season of just disobedience, shallow disobedience, that woke my heart up and opened my eyes, and I began to perceive some things that he was doing around me already. Several friends even, I began to, they would, share, God is really, doing this in my heart and in my life. I believe he's calling me in this direction. And girls, one example, I had like 2 or 3 friends at one time whose hearts were stirred, and they were adopting as families. They would be inviting into their family a child who had no family. And so I began to really just kind of look into that, and I wanted to know, what are you doing, God? All of a sudden you are stirring hearts in this way. How can I come alongside them and encourage them in that? This was new to me, and honestly, I grew up, and adoption was kind of like, if we were told someone a friend or a classmate was adopted, it was like in a whisper, a teacher or a parent might say, Susie was adopted, so, we want to be careful and not hurt feelings or things like that. And we never really knew the beautiful picture of what adoption was because of the way it was shared with us as kids. Does that make sense? I don't know if you've ever...
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, all the ones that were... Adoption has certainly changed, I know, at least in, the last 20, 30 years.
Absolutely.
It was very... I don't want to say a hidden thing, but in the cases I had seen, that the child didn't know that they were adopted.
Right.
There wasn't... The international adoption was not as, I think it's just culturally more acceptable now. And I think people have learned the beautiful gospel message that is there.
Absolutely.
And he's totally woken us up to that. So, that's very dear to my heart.
Yeah. Isn't that exciting, too? Because what was once kept so hidden, the beauty of it has become popular, for lack of a better word. I mean, it's okay for us to say, what God intended all along and how he works in our lives, and the perfect picture of him taking us into his family. We get to participate when friends like you adopt, or, in my circles. I began to Google adoption fundraising or just anything about adoption, and read blogs by women all over the country and would cry as I read their entries, and I got to watch and pray for my friend Dana here in Mobile as she and her family walked through the arduous task of all of the hurdles and hoops to jump through in their adoption in Uganda. And I just, I wanted to be connected and to be able to say, to friends or to friends of friends who are adopting, we see what you're doing and we are praying for you. And more than that, there's a tangible way we can come alongside you. And I came across Noonday Collections adoption fundraising on their website. And I don't know if you're like this, but when you find a site that you love or just, it's easy to just keep clicking through the whole, thing. And before you know it, you've spent an hour reading everything you can about something. And that was how that happened for me. And I came across all kinds of crisscrosses in authors that I already was dialed into, like Jen Hatmaker and others that were connected to Noonday and also had a connection to adoption, and how, we can as friends and family come alongside another friend and say, we're praying for you. We love your family, and we want to participate and encourage you in any way possible. And God really connected my heart in the way that he was already, weaving that ribbon through. He just really used Noonday to give me a tool, I guess, to come alongside what he had already stirred my heart for. And, our family, I'm learning never say never say yes, but, right? But at this point, we are not called to adopt ourselves, but we are, just so all out for adoptive families and loving orphans and orphan care, and how do we do that well and love well in that way as a family. And that's really why I, after, sharing what I found online and read about with my husband, Michael, I just began to pray about that and ask him, what he thought about me participating in Noonday Collection, having never been to a show, never purchased a product myself, or been given one, just on face value of everything that I had kind of vetted out online. And we took the leap in that. And I say we because it is a family effort. My kids are as behind me, and my husband is as involved in the work that I get to do as a Noonday Ambassador as I am. They help me with everything from loading up the car to unloading it for a show. They pray for the shows. They pray for the adoptive families. They've even helped me make things for my setup display. And it's a family effort. And I'm just so glad I get to have, a tangible way. God said, here's where you've asked me to show you, what am I doing? Look at all of these people around you who are adopting. Here's a way for you to come alongside them and encourage them and take the load off. Isn't it wonderful, Amy, when somebody sees somebody that loves you or that a friend has introduced to you says, you know what? I know how I maybe can help you, and they lift that burden a little bit for you. It has been a joy to be a part of an adoptive family's journey and get to just say, you know what, I'm standing here with you, and as best as we can, we want to help lift any earthly burden possible And, we are praying and fighting along with you to lift that spiritual burden, the heaviness that comes sometimes in the lengthy processes. So that's
I love this, that God has just moved you where he was at work, and then it's not just one thing. He's relieving the burden of the artisans who are creating this jewelry. It's the orphans who are being adopted, the families who have a burden for the orphans, and that they have, a weight of the financial piece of it, and it's giving you purpose as well, and your family, and it's giving them a heart for all of these needs. And so it's like one big, I don't know, it's like
it's a loop, isn't it? It's just
it's beautiful.
Yeah, I really, I'm not into selling, but oh man, I am into getting to know people, getting to know what do they do and how do they do it. And how can I be a part of that? And God has just absolutely met me right how he created me to have those curiosities and interests. And he's connected these dots in the last. I came into Noonday in March of 2014, and so it's been a little over a year now. And in that process, he's allowed me to use the adoption fundraising opportunities. And I'm so excited. I have a family that I'm working with this month. And it's just, a wonderful journey that he's brought me on. But in addition to that, my husband and I, for us, every ambassador, of course, can decide for herself and for their families, what they choose to do with their commissions. I have, acquaintances in Noonday who have special needs children that they are able to offset some of their cost of care and special education classes and therapies that they need, and wonderful additions to family income through this. But for us, for this past year, we really felt like God was saying, take this, commission and be very intentional and in giving and in going. And so that is what we did. We chose to reinvest what I was able to earn as a Noonday Ambassador and put that into that trip for going to Uganda. And I am excited about whatever opportunity and however God, says, now do this. That's where we are as a family. So, it's been a loop of just connections that God has given us and reaffirmed. He's strengthened bonds. He's given new friendships and new connections. But I can now look at the globe, Amy, and I can say I've met Moon from India. I've met Jalia and Daniel from Kampala, Uganda, and I've held the pieces that their artisans that they employ make, and we partner with them. I know the women who are sewing our beautiful fabric bags in Rwanda. I know that they are now thriving and empowered to care for their families because of their income. And, it matters where our stuff comes from. And I didn't know that before a year and a half or so ago. And that's, just another layer of just what God has opened our eyes to, is that we can actually be connected to men and women around the world in their work, and come alongside them, like you said, and encourage them in partnership that isn't here today and gone tomorrow. And it makes a difference. It really does.
Yes, and I love that it's beautiful stuff, too. Of course, I have the feathered leather earrings.
Oh, you do? Well, let me tell you what. We have a fun, if you're into hashtags on Instagram, we have a fun hashtag for Friday. You're going to love it. It's Feathered Fringe Friday. So I invite you to check out our hashtag, and you'll see us, me and several just beautiful, sweet ambassador sisters of mine that have fun with that. So you'll have to join us in that too. But,
all right, I will.
And I wanted to, is it okay to go ahead and share about the featherweight cuffs?
Yes, please do. So Wendy is graciously offered to give a feathered cuff away to one of our listeners. And she is going to first tell us about the background of that in the story, because each one of these pieces are important and do have artisans behind it and a story behind it. So why don't you share that with us, Wendy?
Absolutely. Our featherweight cuff is so beautiful. Feathers, like you said, you have the leather earrings. Feathers are just so on trend, but they are just a classic statement in this bracelet. It is hand carved from water buffalo horn that's ethically harvested in Vietnam. And our artisans are so talented. I encourage your listeners and blog readers to check it out online at wendyhogan.noondaycollection.com. And I'm sure you're going to post the link there to that too. But they can view our artisan stories item by item, or even go to the Impact tab and look under there for the who and the where and the how stories of our artisans. But these beautiful horn pieces are so unique. Everyone varies just a little bit. So I think that is just, even extra special, because every girl that wears this cuff is unique in herself. And, it's just a wonderful classic statement bracelet that I hope one of your readers or listeners will really enjoy.
Yes, and if you want to enter to win that, just go over to featherspodcast.com and find the blog post that goes along with this episode and leave a comment, and we will be drawing a name on Monday. Let's see, June, that would be 8th.
Yeah, already.
Yeah. I know, I can't believe we're in June. It's kind of crazy. So, yes, we'd love for somebody to win that and wear that, and of course, the feathers from the podcast, but also from Noonday and all of that tying together is just so beautiful. Absolutely. So, Wendy, thanks so much for sharing your story. I just love to see how it's very clear that God has just placed a joy in your heart, and it's just given you a light in life and purpose, and it's all through you seeking Him through your obedience and your faith.
Thanks, Amy, so much. I appreciate it. It was such a wonderful chance to get to spend time with you, too.
All right. Thanks a lot. Well, friends, I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Wendy. It's so exciting to hear from people like her whose passion for what she's doing is so apparent. A few things I want to take away from her episode. First is that she recognized that unrest and began seeking God for the answer. So many people feel that unrest with all sorts of things. I mean, I know for years, TV and reading were my escapes. I'm not saying on their own either one is bad, but we can definitely use them in an attempt to fill a boredom or unrest and just that God-sized hole that we have. For you, it might be totally something else. So I just want to first encourage you to really seek God if you're feeling that disconnect. And then I just love that when she sought God, that He answered her and showed her exactly where she'd been disobedient. And guys, I think this is so wonderful to see that that disobedient really does lead to that unrest and not being fulfilled. And when she did start walking in obedience, that is where she found her joy. And it's not saying that it's not hard. I'm sure it is hard to run a business and to organize all these things, but there's joy in it. And that's what we can find when we walk in faith. So I hope this inspires you to take that next step wherever you are in your journey. And don't forget to leave a comment over on the blog to win that featherweight bracelet. I've seen it in person, and it is very beautiful. And one other thing we didn't talk about in the interview, I don't think, is that Jen Hatmaker just posted about Noonday on her blog on Monday, June 1st. She's actually offering a special for those that sign up as an ambassador. So go check that out too. So, all right, guys, I hope you really enjoyed that, and we will see you next week on Feathers.